So back to their world again, and the George Floyd issue kind of rumbles on. And that was always an event to cover certain other things and then initiate new programs. That's how they work. They initiate new programs, new rules, and new directives, and then they throw some money to Israel in the background. Seems to be the way things operate here. And then another program came forth this week, which is of police reform. And no one's doubting for any minute that the police need to be held accountable for some of the awful behaviour that some of them do, not all of them. But the fact that all of them stand by and allow their colleagues to do whatever they like makes them complicit in my eyes. I've always been that way. I've always stood up for people. We had that Asian looking guy, I can't remember his name now, who was standing covering the alleged cop doing the knee on George Floyd's neck. He must have seen that was wrong and yet ignored it. So if George Floyd has died for real, and there's sufficient doubt going around to not have 100% proof either way, that person is complicit in murder, including the other cops that were standing by. But then out comes George Floyd's patsy lawyer, issuing a directive this week to the UN, of all people, to step in and reform the American police. Forgetting or not forgetting for the fact that who trained the American police. And yet again, it's that country, fake country, Israel. And the Zionist clowns that run it, not the Jewish people. They're just as oppressed as everybody else by these goons. Now, some will say that it's long overdue, police reform, and many in this group, because your thinking patterns have changed, will say, but what with? Will it be new boss, same as the old boss, just like the Federal Reserve takeover by the Black Sun from the Rothschilds, all championed by Team Q and possibly also Trump? And you've got to remember that Obama signed executive orders for the UN to take over America, essentially. And so, if this is the narrative being pushed, what has actually changed in the last 4 years? And what is actually being done to prevent it? Now, for those of you who can remember a little bit further back, this was the same narrative for the Jade Helm exercises back in 2013 and 14, and pictures of UN vehicles were dotted all over the country and all over the internet. So the lawyer is asking for UN intervention, and yet curiously doesn't ask the very organisation said to look after events and issues within this country, called the government. Now, American people, should question that on all levels. Is what the lawyer is stating that the government itself is incompetent, corrupt, or incapable of delivering police reform? Because if that's the case, the people have an obligation to take action in November, should they not? Because if something is not fit for purpose, which is what the lawyer is implying, then surely the people have to react to that notion. Now, we at THI know that it's possibly part of an Agenda 21 or 30. And what he is stating or advocating is the UN to dictate not only this country's policies, but globally. And that should concern listeners right around the world. For those who are new, the UN is a defunct, non-existent in real terms, clown organisation designed to destroy every country from within and outside, and it has looted every country, implemented the fake climate change with the hidden programme of demanding all countries to sign over all of their assets to the UN to fight, allegedly, climate change. No, it's just high-level looting. And essentially what the lawyer's trying to push, along with Obama, is a public one world government in action. And I say public as they've had a one world government since the 1920s and possibly earlier. So now reports are coming out of defunding the police, predictably in California, but in other regions also. But what are they replacing them with? Well, given the technological piece before the music break, it's not too far-fetched, is it? Will we end up with militaristic elements of the UN on our soil? Mercenary-style agency people like Blackwater? Or the robot army, all being built quietly in China and other regions? And this is what I warned about in previous shows. First, the police. Next comes the military. I've said it at least 3 times on this show. The military will get replaced. They cannot fund them anymore. And it will be replaced by NATO, Rothschild's private army, mercenaries, CIA's private armies, and robot armies. Unless the generals get off their arse and stop waiting for non-existent carrots for jackasses known as the RV. They're going to replace all of you. You are no longer cost effective in the new system, and everything will be technology and no people. That's what they want. And it's up to us all to come together and fix that.